Delivery apps are killing your wallet. The total flashes on the screen: $37 for one burger, fries, and a soda. The customer hesitates, thumb hovering over place order, disbelief sinking in. Minutes ago, that same meal looked harmless, maybe $12 tops. But somewhere between checkout fees, service adjustments, delivery charges, and a mysterious driver benefit, the price quietly tripled. Across town, a driver watches the gas needle flirt with empty. A restaurant owner wipes her hands, eyes on the tablet that never stops pinging with orders that bring little profit. Cut between them all, the familiar splash screens: Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub. Slick interfaces concealing chaos underneath. These apps were supposed to save time, not drain wallets or sink small restaurants. Once symbols of freedom, they've turned into the villains of the modern meal. Everyone has a story: the cold order, the $10 fries, the driver who drove 20 minutes for $3. A trillion-dollar industry built on frustration, hidden costs, and the illusion that convenience is free. The tone isn't despair, it's tired humor. Hating delivery apps might be one of the few things everyone agrees on now. We complain, delete them, then reinstall them the next night anyway. They've become a shared bad habit, like doom scrolling with calories attached. If you've ever ordered a small dinner and paid as if it came with concert tickets, you're not alone. Hidden fees, fake benefits, and cold fries have become shared modern folklore. A mass delusion that convinces us convenience costs nothing until the receipt reminds us otherwise. So how did it get this bad? How did a service built to simplify life turn into something nearly everyone resents? Consumers, drivers, and restaurants alike. To find out, we need to rewind to the beginning, to when app-based delivery really did feel like the future. Because before the 20-item receipts and weary complaints, there was excitement, a genuine belief that pressing a button could make dinner appear like magic. And that's where the story begins. The rise of convenience. Rewind to the late 200s, when delivery apps still felt like magic. Download one, type your address, and suddenly the menus of an entire city appeared in your hand. The names, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, sounded sleek, frictionless, global. The pitch was simple and intoxicating. Get anything you crave, anytime, anywhere. Dinner no longer needed preparation, or even planning. Just tap, wait, and receive. The clunky phone calls to order takeout were gone, replaced by glossy photos and instant confirmation screens. It felt like an introduction to the future, an effortless one. Early adopters were delighted. Students could order late-night tacos without moving from their desks. Office workers hit send from their cubicles and ate without leaving the building. For restaurants, it looked like a golden ticket. Free exposure to thousands of potential customers who would never have found them otherwise. Delivery apps presented themselves as partners, not middlemen. The language was full of promises. We'll handle logistics so you can focus on food. It sounded like liberation disguised as software. Then came 202. Everything that had felt futuristic suddenly became essential. When cities shut down, the delivery driver became one of the few people moving freely through empty streets. Customers were trapped indoors, fearful to eat out or even open their doors too long. Delivery became the link between restaurant kitchens and living rooms, a lifeline wrapped in plastic bags and tamper-proof seals. Orders skyrocketed overnight. Businesses rushed onto whatever app would take them, even if the sign-up contracts seemed confusing or expensive. They didn't have a choice, either join the platforms or close. For restaurants, that year changed everything. Some saw their entire revenue depend on delivery within months. Dining rooms were ghost spaces, but phones pinged non-stop with digital tickets. Packaging suppliers sold out of containers. Delivery platform couriers lined up outside kitchens like rolling conveyor belts. Apps that once looked like accessories became survival tools. Consumers, meanwhile, got used to new habits at record speed. The ritual of scrolling for meals replaced menu reading. Comfort food took digital form. The convenience was addictive. You could be on a couch at midnight, half watching a show, and dinner arrived with a knock. One-click ordering turned impulse into routine. That sensation of instant gratification fit perfectly into a world that was already shrinking toward our screens. By 2021, ordering wasn't just a pandemic behavior, it had become part of culture. Memes joked about people who hadn't used their stoves in months. Delivery no longer felt like indulgence, it was the default. You could track your meal across the city, watch the driver's little icon pause at stoplights, and receive a ping the moment they turned onto your street. Technology had given food a storyline. The old waiting, 30 minutes of uncertainty after a phone order, was replaced by digital anticipation. The dopamine hit of progress bars did the rest. Behind that convenience, though, the early cracks were already there. Restaurants were receiving smaller deposits than expected. Fees labeled as marketing support or delivery facilitation ate into earnings. But few dared complain publicly. The pandemic still raged, and criticizing the companies that kept your doors metaphorically open felt risky. Consumers noticed, too. The totals seemed slightly higher than before, but they chalked it up to inflation or hazard pay. The collective attitude was, it's fine, it's worth it, it's safe. Uber Eats and DoorDash emerged as gatekeepers almost overnight. With small independent players pushed aside, these two dominated the market, turning the everyday act of ordering takeout into a duopoly. Their apps dictated which restaurants appeared first, which got promotional boosts, and which were buried pages deep. A new kind of food economy was forming, algorithms replacing word of mouth. A restaurant's success could hinge on a surge price, a well-timed discount, or the whim of an app's homepage design. The dream of democratized discovery quietly gave way to corporate choreography. Still, the illusion of perfection held. Marketing kept the story bright, smiling riders on bikes, perfectly plated dishes, little hearts pulsing beside your favorite order. Every commercial promised to give you back time, so you can focus on what matters. The hidden complexity, warehouse-style dispatch centers, algorithmic scheduling, late-night driver shortages, was never shown. Convenience was the surface, chaos was the foundation. The fusion of technology and appetite had created a near-religious attachment. People bragged about their loyalty tiers, free delivery badges, and streak rewards. Delivery apps began sponsoring sporting events, music festivals, even dating shows. What did you eat became replaced by where'd you order from. Restaurants stopped being destinations and started being content suppliers for tech companies. A meal wasn't just food anymore, it was data. What made it work was how natural it felt. Every glitch or fee was hidden behind good design. Estimated delivery time, 32 minutes. It sounded precise, scientific, trustworthy. Even when it wasn't, we learned to trust the animation of progress more than the real-world process behind it. And that trust kept the system running far longer than anyone expected. By the mid-2020s, app-based delivery was no longer a novelty, it was infrastructure. Cities adapted around it. Apartment lobbies filled with pickup shelves. Bike lanes doubled as waiting zones for couriers refreshing their screens. Restaurants redesigned their kitchens to prioritize takeout lanes, not tables. The thing that once felt like a magic trick had turned into operating procedure. We were living inside the promise of convenience, all of us, diners, cooks, drivers, part of a giant logistical ballet choreographed by machines. But under the glow of convenience, something was off. Orders were bigger, but profits slimmer. Consumers were paying more, though restaurant incomes barely moved. The apps were growing rich in user data, but not necessarily in cash. Everyone was busier than ever, yet no one seemed happier. The dream of delivery freedom had quietly become dependence. And that's where the small cracks start turning into real fractures. Because once the novelty faded, the question crept in. If everything's so easy now, why does it all feel harder? The answers, as it turns out, were hidden underneath every receipt, and in the fine print that nobody bothered to read. The real cost of convenience was never just about price. It was baked into the very system that made us believe pressing a button could be effortless forever. The hidden costs of convenience. The illusion of convenience always starts small. You scroll through glossy photos, tap on the burger that looks impossibly photogenic, and see a neat subtotal, $12. Acceptable. You hit checkout, and that's when the math starts sprinting away from you. There's the delivery fee, the service fee, the small order fee, a mysterious driver benefit charge, and then, because guilt now comes with a price tag, you add a tip. Somewhere between the tap and the confirmation page, $12 turns into $25. That's before tax. It's as if every button you press invites another hand into your wallet. Most people never notice where the extra money goes, because the apps don't want you to. The layout makes sure of it: bright photos, cheerful fonts, muted gray numbers. It's not deception so much as distraction. Combine a few percent here, a few there, and suddenly the world's simplest indulgence costs as much as a proper restaurant meal. You've just made a donation to what one driver jokingly calls the billionaire convenience fund. And nearly 70% of customers keep doing it anyway, because convenience always wins, until the receipt arrives. Those same customers swear that delivery is their choice, their freedom. But surveys tell a different story. Around 70% say they'd rather order directly from a restaurant if prices were transparent. They're only on the apps because the platforms have become the search engines of food. If a restaurant isn't listed there, it might as well not exist. We don't pick convenience, convenience picks us. For restaurants, those invisible fees cut even deeper. The apps take up to 30% in commission from every order, sometimes more, depending on promotional participation. The companies call it partnership, the owners call it slow strangulation. On paper, it looks like progress. Delivery revenue surges, order numbers climb, and a small cafeteria that once served a few dozen diners suddenly ships meals across town. But when the statement comes in, the numbers betray the illusion. After commissions, packaging costs, and delivery adjustments, the margin barely survives. It's easy to assume those percentages don't matter. 30% of a lot is still something, right? But restaurants already live on margins under 10%. Taking away triple that doesn't just sting, it makes survival impossible. Many end up treating delivery as advertising, not income, a way to get in front of new customers who might someday come in person. Except they rarely do. The digital customers remain in-app, loyal not to the restaurant, but to the interface that mediates their hunger. The strangest part is how everyone feels tricked in a slightly different way. The customer thinks they're being nickeled and dimed by corporations. The restaurant believes the customer doesn't value them anymore. The driver feels exploited by both, squeezed between low base pay and volatile tips. Meanwhile, the platforms congratulate themselves on enhancing connection between local businesses and communities. It's a perfect triangle of dissatisfaction disguised as innovation. Let's run the math in human terms. A $12 burger costs the restaurant maybe $4 to make. Ingredients, labor, packaging. They sell it through an app that takes nearly a third, leaving them 8 minus commission, around $5.50. The customer pays $25. It's a balance where both sides lose. The difference lands in the black box of service facilitation, a phrase that could mean anything from payment processing to executive bonuses. The total distance from stove to stomach now measures in fees instead of blocks. At first, those extra charges were justified as temporary, hazard pay, rising fuel, pandemic premiums. But when conditions improved, the fees didn't vanish, they multiplied. Apps learned the simplest rule in digital economics. Once users accept paying more for convenience, they rarely revolt until the bill gets truly absurd. Each tweak, a new marketing support line here, a regulatory recovery adjustment there, slides in quietly. By the time you notice, the fees don't even sound real anymore. They're closer to performance art. What makes it even more absurd is how small order fees punish you for not spending enough money on already overpriced food. Imagine walking into a cafe, ordering a sandwich, and being told you owe an extra $3 because your appetite was insufficiently ambitious. In the digital world, that logic passes for normal. Want to avoid the fee? Add fries. Want to save time? Subscribe to a monthly DashPass or Eats Plus. The solution to expensive convenience, it turns out, is more subscription-based convenience. Still, the real cost isn't just financial. The psychology of the apps changes how people relate to food. Ordering stops being a decision and becomes reflex. The apps encourage you to chase little rewards, loyalty badges, streak bonuses. You're one order away from gold status. These gamified nudges don't make your dinner better. They make your dependence stronger. Every screen tap is a data point, and every data point helps the platform learn how to extract a few more cents from you next time. Meanwhile, restaurants lose not just money but identity. Their logos shrink beneath delivery banners. The customer remembers the platform, not the chef. The meal becomes a generic commodity, flattened into the interface. Even if a restaurant builds its own online ordering, breaking free is nearly impossible. Google searches still funnel traffic back to the big apps. Independence exists mainly as marketing copy. To the average user, this whole structure remains invisible. You open the app, scroll for comfort, and convince yourself it's simpler than cooking. And it is at first. But that simplicity rests on thousands of hidden microtransactions between code, data, and human labor. When you pay $25 for dinner, you're funding an empire of optimizations. Routing algorithms, predictive demand models, data analytics teams, and servers stacked in distant warehouses humming on fossil power. The fries are cold because the system is hot, constantly calculating how to make sure everyone else works harder so you can wait less. The irony is that convenience, once meant to save us time, now devours it in smaller ways. You spend longer scrolling menus than you would have spent making pasta. You refresh tracking maps like stock tickers, watching the driver icons circle the block. The dopamine loop of digital waiting takes over, leaving you slightly more bored, slightly hungrier, and definitely poorer. The machine that promised efficiency feeds on inefficiency. It requires endless small costs to sustain the illusion. Ask any restaurant owner, and they'll tell you the same story. At first, the apps brought a flood of new customers and easy revenue. Then the bills started growing, margins shrank, and labor costs rose. Some owners tried to game the system with virtual brands or ghost kitchens. Multiple listings from one location, a temporary algorithmic hack. But the platform always adapts. It doesn't care which brand survives as long as orders keep flowing through its pipeline. By 2025, most restaurants see delivery as a necessary evil. The apps drive nearly 40% of their revenue, but swallow most of their profit. To quit means losing reach. To stay means losing control. Many settle for uneasy coexistence, hoping direct pickup traffic can patch the gap. But that gap keeps widening because consumer expectations move only in one direction, toward faster, easier, free. Every part of the system depends on the others pretending it still works. Consumers justify paying more because they think drivers benefit. Drivers accept low pay because they believe restaurants make plenty. Restaurants stay on board because customers expect them to. Convenience holds together through mutual misunderstanding. It's an ecosystem powered by denial. Each part convinced someone else must be getting the good deal. And yet, the hidden costs aren't hidden anymore. They show up in smaller tips, in frustrated reviews about price hikes, in neighborhoods where local restaurants quietly vanish from maps. We're buying the same sandwich for twice the price, just to feel like we're saving time. What nobody mentions is who's paying for that illusion. The driver burning gas, the cook losing margins, the diner absorbing every invented fee. Because someone always pays for convenience. It just rarely turns out to be the company selling it. The real price isn't on the menu. It's burned into the lives of everyone keeping the delivery dream alive. And for the people on the road, that cost is about to spike. The gig worker's toll. Before the customer sees that neatly wrapped meal at the door, someone has already paid the real tax on convenience. It's the driver watching their fuel gauge sink while the app pings nonstop. They're called independent contractors. But what they're independent from is security. Every mile costs them gas, maintenance, and time that the system never compensates. Not long ago, gig work sounded like freedom. Be your own boss, the ads promised. Work when you want. And for a while it worked. Drivers filled the gaps between jobs, classes, or childcare. But as gas prices spiked and base pay shrank, flexibility became shorthand for risk. In 2025, fuel alone eats between 18 and 34% of a driver's income. No company covers it, no algorithm adjusts for it, and no customer fully realizes it's happening. Some platforms added fuel surcharges, pennies disguised as help. 35 cents, 50 if you're lucky, barely enough to cover a few blocks. Yet a single shift can burn through $20 of gas. The math never adds up. Behind every $5 delivery fee is someone's personal car doing corporate logistics, complete with wear, tear, and late-night refills at overpriced pumps. Open a driver's phone, and it looks like a trading desk. Multiple apps, stacked side by side, competing for pings. A good night means the algorithm favors you, steady orders, short distances, decent tips. A bad one means long waits, canceled runs, and hours sinking without pay. Downtime is an invisible expense. An hour lost here, and there equals thousands of unpaid dollars a year. No hourly wage, no safety net. The app only counts movement, not waiting. And then comes the rating game. Every driver lives in a feedback loop scored by customers, restaurants, and code. Decline too many orders and your acceptance rate drops. Cancel too many and you're quietly locked out. No warnings, no appeals, just digital exile. Independence dissolves inside a system that monitors every tap, but shares none of the responsibility. To make ends meet, some chase surge bonuses that vanish as fast as they appear. One driver calls it fishing in an algorithmic lake. It's stocked until you show up. Others juggle two apps. At once, sprinting between pickups before food goes cold. Each strategy means more stress, more fuel, more risk for less reward. The emotional toll is just as heavy. You're essential but invisible, proud but exhausted. Each doorbell rings the same. Another delivery, another reminder that your labor moves the system faster, but never pays you back for the wear it costs. Many drivers describe the job as equal parts pride and resignation, dignity delivered in disposable bags. Isolation deepens it. No coworkers, no support, only a map that glows with orders. The app tracks every second of motion, but offers no help when life intervenes. A flat tire or bad rating can erase a day's earnings. And the so-called community help forums, read more like therapy sessions for digital exhaustion. Then there's the tax trap. Gig workers file as self-employed, juggling deductions for gas, tires, and oil changes while owing self-employment tax on top. The IRS calls them entrepreneurs. In practice, they're contractors subsidizing billion-dollar companies with their own vehicles. Miss one deduction, and an entire week's profit evaporates. Pay is per trip, not per hour. So drivers rarely know what a day's work is worth until it's over. Rising fuel costs keep tightening the pinch. A 30-cent jump per gallon can erase 15% of net earnings. Many drivers cut hours, stick to short routes, or quit entirely. Some try switching to hybrids, but upgrades cost money they don't have. One driver summarized it perfectly. "My car's depreciating faster than my paycheck." Corporations still call them partners, but partnership implies sharing risk. And here, the risk flows one way. Platforms cover nothing but the narrative that efficiency equals fairness. They profit on volume while drivers gamble on survival. A few adapt like technicians, tracking which neighborhoods tip best or using third-party dashboards to map profitability down to the block. They turn survival into spreadsheet science. Yet despite all the optimization, average gig pay still hovers below most state living wages. That exposes the flaw no algorithm can hide. When the price of movement itself outpaces pay, the model collapses. Bonuses and boosts are temporary bandages on permanent imbalance. Regulators debate reclassification, drivers whisper about unionizing, but the apps keep selling flexibility, like freedom, while quietly shaving it down to scarcity. The irony is brutal. The platforms that sell speed and simplicity run on workers stuck in slow, unpredictable, costly reality. They're the invisible gears of a trillion-dollar convenience engine, bearing all the friction the system won't acknowledge. When one burns out, another steps in, and the cycle spins on. Every delivery that shows up steaming hot arrives powered by someone else's unpaid time, burned fuel, and slow erosion behind the wheel. It's the cost of convenience made visible, measured in miles, gallons, and fatigue rather than dollars. And as fuel prices keep rising, that trade-off looks less like flexibility and more like quiet desperation. Behind every tap of place order isn't efficiency, it's endurance. The driver on the other side is betting that today's mileage won't cost more than what they earn. For them, the convenience economy isn't a tech miracle. It's a gamble paid in gas. The billion-dollar illusion. At a glance, the apps look invincible, everywhere, expanding, sponsored across sports finals, late-night talk shows, and subway walls. The logos glow like modern necessities, not luxuries. DoorDash, Uber Eats, Deliveroo, digital titans of dinner. Except underneath those bright ads, most of these companies are quietly losing money. Remarkably, billions of dollars in revenue still can't translate into profit. It's the oldest trick in tech: scale fast, burn cash, and promise investors that someday soon, the math will work out. The story starts with the illusion of growth. Each platform measures success by orders completed, users signed up, restaurants on board. That kind of exponential graphic cites Wall Street, not kitchens. But those curves hide the underlying truth: margins thinner than parchment. Each order involves paying drivers, refunding errors, discounting new customers, covering promotion deals, and marketing aggressively enough to outpace rivals doing the same. It's an arms race disguised as convenience. What makes investors tolerate it is the fantasy of dominance. The logic goes, lose money now, own the market later. So they subsidize every delivered burrito as a long-term investment in your habits. Every coupon, every first order discount isn't generosity, it's bait. You're not the customer, you're the product auditioning for lifelong loyalty. Or more precisely, lifelong laziness that keeps you coming back even after prices rise. By 2025, the fight for your dinner table looks identical to early ride-sharing battles. The Uber playbook still rules. Flood the market, undercut everyone, squeeze labor, declare victory, then attempt profitability once competitors collapse. Investors call it patience. Restaurants call it purgatory. For years, these companies survived on venture capital that covered their losses, layering tech jargon over basic food logistics. Dynamic optimization of supply routing sounded more impressive than someone's cold pizza arrived late again. Technology remained their favorite costume. Delivery wasn't about sustenance, it was about data harvesting masked as service. User behavior, address clustering, dietary preferences, location heat maps, those were the real commodities. The meal was incidental. The platforms learned what time you eat, what food comforts you after a bad day, which holidays spike your spending. They sell convenience outwardly, but monetize predictability. The business of feeding people quietly morphed into the business of profiling them. Meanwhile, executives pitched sustainability to shareholders, translating endless losses into narratives of future efficiency. Once automation scales, they'd say, delivery will become profitable. Translation: once we cut humans out of the process, drones, bots, and ghost kitchens would someday shoulder the costs that humans currently carry. In the spreadsheets, that future gleamed, a world where food magically delivered itself and investors finally saw black ink instead of red. In reality, the tech never moves as fast as the PowerPoints promised. Practically speaking, the economics remain absurd. A platform might earn a 15% commission from a single order while spending 25% on acquisition and operations. Multiply that across millions of orders, and you get billion-dollar losses disguised as user growth. Yet stock valuations climb, because markets adore scale more than sense. The moment apps reach total addressable market saturation, analysts celebrate, even as balance sheets gasp for air. The irony is delicious if you can stomach it. The industry selling efficiency operates on one of the least efficient financial models imaginable. It's a loop where the more deliveries an app completes, the more money it loses. But investors keep feeding it, hoping one day the algorithm will flip a hidden switch called profit. Until then, restaurants hemorrhage, workers scramble, and consumers foot the ever-rising bill, all to maintain the illusion that clicking add to cart is a sustainable act. Think about how offers appear. Free delivery on your next order. 25% off for loyal users. Those aren't rewards, they're calculated losses meant to rope you back. For years, app growth depended on paying for retention. They bought customer loyalty like companies once bought radio ads, expensive and unsustainable, but great for quarterly headlines. It's digital theater with fryer grease for props. Behind the scenes, venture capital acts as the unseen chef funding your late-night cravings. Without investor money, half these apps would vanish within months. The goal isn't to make profit yet, it's to shape behavior before profit becomes necessary. Once people stop viewing cooking as viable, pricing becomes limitless. The habit itself is the monetized product. Faith in frictionless living turns into a commodity traded on the NASDAQ. Inside boardrooms, executives call it unlocking convenience ecosystems. Outside, customers just call it Tuesday dinner. What's sold as empowerment, order on your terms, is actually dependency manufacturing. The more seamless the app, the more invisible its grip. You rarely notice the quiet shifts, smaller discounts, higher fees, fewer drivers. Each tweak tests how much pain users will tolerate before bouncing. The data tells them the answer, far more than expected. A joke circulates among analysts. Delivery apps aren't selling food, they're selling humanity's impatience at scale. There's truth in that. Nobody actually needs a smoothie in 10 minutes, but the industry survives on convincing you that waiting 15 is unbearable. That tension between want and now is their revenue engine. Impatience becomes currency. You pay extra to silence discomfort that patience used to handle for free. And somehow, even while posting losses, the companies report historic revenues. They boast record transaction volumes and expansion into 7,000 new cities. Like geographic domination compensates for financial gravity. Investors applaud, the public yawns, then orders another meal. It's capitalism's favorite optical illusion, money burning so brilliantly it looks like success. Growth without gain. For restaurants watching from the sidelines, this success feels like slow suffocation. Every quarter the platforms announce higher revenues, yet the independent eateries supplying those revenues fight to stay alive. The profits get routed upward to shareholders and server farms, leaving crumbs behind. It's a cruel parody of trickle-down economics where the liquid is hot soup delivered late. And still, these platforms call themselves partners in local business growth. Their press releases read like motivational posters, empowering communities through digital access. In reality, they're feeding communities through debt disguised as expansion. The average order might cost the company money today, but the hope is that convenience addiction keeps you returning tomorrow when prices creep even higher. Even within this burning model, optimism persists. They predict AI-driven dispatch will eliminate inefficiencies, that autonomous vehicles will erase payroll costs, that subscriptions will stabilize income streams. Maybe. But what none of those projections fix is fatigue. People's growing awareness that convenience fatigue now outweighs convenience pleasure. When the thrill of instant gratification dulls, the bill's sting hits harder. By late 2025, cracks widen. Growth plateaus, public sentiment cools, investors start asking the unthinkable. When does dinner start paying for itself? Platforms spin new narratives, wellness tie-ins, grocery delivery, on-demand everything. The illusion morphs instead of breaks. Because once an industry perfects dependency, reality must bend to preserve it. Still, the truth seeps through receipts. A trillion-dollar sector built on impatience, financed by faith, sustained by loss. It's less empire than experiment. And experiments eventually end when the funding runs dry. The promise of a frictionless dining future? It comes with more friction than ever, just redistributed along the chain, hidden behind premium icons and promo codes that mask perpetual deficit. Customers see prices rising, restaurants feel profits shrinking, investors glimpse value evaporating. Yet the apps keep smiling, hoping confidence lasts one quarter longer. That illusion, the billion-dollar glow hiding billion-dollar holes, is what props the entire convenience world upright. It can't last forever, but it doesn't have to. It only needs to last until the next funding round. The consumer revolt. By 2025, people started realizing that convenience they'd been buying wasn't convenient anymore. That shiny app promise, hot food, quick service, no effort, now came wrapped in frustration and sticker shock. What used to feel like freedom began to feel like a scam with push notifications. The receipts told the story first. Service fees stacked higher, totals ballooned quietly, and fries still showed up cold. Then came the realization that everyone was miserable. Customers complaining about prices, drivers complaining about pay, restaurants complaining about margins. The revolt didn't have slogans or strikes. It showed up as mass annoyance. Reviews filled with little explosions of irritation. How is delivery $10 on a $10 meal? Why are my tacos cold if they're only 5 minutes away? People started screenshotting app breakdowns like they were crime scenes. Tax, service, delivery, small order fee, driver benefit, platform adjustment, tip. Each line item became a digital bruise. The anger wasn't just about food, it was about betrayal. Convenience had promised joy, but the emotional return on investment was declining fast. Corporate optimism didn't help. Platforms kept announcing they'd improved service quality with AI, that prices were fairer now. Consumers disagreed. The American Customer Satisfaction Index for 2025 gave the food delivery sector a 74 out of 100, up only a single point from the year before, but still well below dine-in restaurants at 82 and carry-out at 79. That gap wasn't statistical noise, it was trust eroding a few decimals at a time. DoorDash sat at 73, Uber Eats a shaky 75, and smaller services, ironically the ones without billion-dollar budgets, scored higher. When the underdogs deliver better experiences than the giants, the narrative flips. The grumbling hit social media first. Threads where people confessed they'd started walking to pick up orders again. TikTok skits mocking the thrill of tipping 20% just to get soggy noodles. Even influencers who'd once cashed sponsorship checks began posting about delivery detoxes. Convenience lost its cool, always the beginning of decline in consumer culture. When ridicule replaces aspiration, the algorithm can't spin its way out. Price fairness became the battlefield. The data showed minor improvement in how users rated it, still near the bottom, hovering around 71 out of 100, but that made almost no perceptible difference. People might tolerate high prices during inflation, but not arbitrary ones labeled as regulatory adjustments. Nothing kills satisfaction faster than realizing an extra dollar was invented mid-checkout for no reason at all. That creeping sense of being nickel and dimed turned eating into accounting. The irony is that most metrics elsewhere improved. Apps got faster, order tracking smoother, personalization sharper. But technology enhancements didn't matter when the psychology broke. Customers trusted physical restaurants more because they could see where their money went. Inside a diner, a burger costs $15, tip included, and you leave fed. On the apps, the same burger flirts with $30, and you still tip, then wait, then complain. The feeling of value collapsed completely. Gen Z noticed first. They'd grown up ordering everything, but even they began looking for loopholes. Cost-saving hacks filled Reddit forums. Skip drinks, pick up orders yourself, order straight from the restaurant website to dodge fees. Loyalty flipped directions, from the app to the kitchen. Direct ordering pages, once buried on Google Maps, suddenly saw traffic spikes. Even younger consumers, supposedly addicted to frictionless living, realized the math didn't add up. Convenience had crossed from necessity to indulgence, then to joke. Another surprise appeared in satisfaction studies. Families ordering for group meals still reported higher happiness levels than solo eaters. Sharing the cost dulled the sting. But individuals eating alone, often late or stressed, carried sharper resentment. Delivery had marketed itself as the friendliest option for single lifestyles, the personal chef in your pocket. Yet by 2025, many solo users confessed it now felt more like a tax on loneliness. They weren't buying dinner, they were paying to avoid dishes, time, interaction. The guilt crept in along with the delivery notifications. Restaurants started sensing the mood shift. They saw reviews where customers blamed them for fees the platform imposed. One owner posted that people complained about overcharging when the menu price was normal. It was the app markup twisting perception. Others noticed repeat customers migrating to direct pickup orders after realizing they could save $5 or $6 each time. It became clear the platform's reputations were bleeding into the restaurant's brands. When consumers revolt, collateral damage hits everyone. Apps responded the only way corporations know how, by reinventing the optics. They tested transparent breakdown, screens showing where each dollar goes, hoping information would ease resentment. It didn't. Knowing exactly which fees exist doesn't make paying them more pleasant. They rolled out reward programs, premium subscriptions promising lower fees, but those sounded less like deals and more like ransoms. Pay monthly to stop being punished. The revolt wasn't loud. It was cumulative exhaustion manifesting as choice. People didn't protest. They simply closed the apps. Statistics began showing slowed growth in active monthly users for the first time since the pandemic boom. Analysts called it market maturity. Insiders called it realization. Once customers experienced the full end-to-end picture, the hidden costs, the lagging quality, the lack of joy, they disengaged quietly but decisively. Complaints shifted tone too. In early surveys, people blamed bad drivers or busy restaurants. By 2025, most directed frustration at the platforms themselves. The psychological trick of anonymity broke. Now users saw the middleman clearly. Customer service chatbots became the new villains, loops of automated apologies without refunds. Corporate empathy couldn't be downloaded as easily as an update. And while satisfaction slipped, humor became resistance. Memes joked about service fee for breathing in the app environment. People shared exaggerated receipts like trophies of outrage. Ridicule became activism. That online cynicism signaled something deeper, a generational correction against mindless consumption. If convenience could turn this absurd, maybe slowing down was rebellion. Still, loyalty dies hard. Even angry customers reopen the apps when hunger and laziness sink. But now they browse with a skeptical thumb, checking totals, comparing fees, sometimes backing out before paying. Every half-completed order is a tiny protest, a data blip hiding an emotion the algorithm can't quantify: resentment. The numbers confirm it. Though industry revenue keeps rising, over $170 billion in 2025, growth is slowing and complaints are climbing. Companies brag that satisfaction ticked upward 1%. Consumers wonder why it isn't 10. The gap between optimism and reality has never been wider. For years, delivery apps sold the idea that perfection was one tap away. By 2025, users finally saw how imperfect that tap had become. The promise had inverted. Speed brought waiting, ease brought irritation, and convenience brought debt. The revolt was never explosive. It was quiet, steady, measurable in abandoned carts and unrenewed subscriptions. But inside the data, the story is clear. The customers these platforms spent billions to win are finally questioning what they actually bought. And as that doubt spreads, restaurants see an opening, an escape route back to real connection, personal service, and profit they can keep. While consumers delete apps in disgust, chefs polish storefronts again, reheating a simple idea that suddenly feels radical. Maybe it's cheaper, faster, and happier to just go get the food yourself. Restaurants versus the algorithm. If you want to see frustration made tangible, ask a restaurant owner about their delivery dashboard. The tablet never sleeps, buzzing, blinking, demanding attention like a needy pet that makes money for someone else. Orders pour in, but profit doesn't. Every accepted ticket means paying the platform a fee that bites harder each year. For a moment during the pandemic, delivery looked like salvation. Now it feels like ransom. The technology sold itself as partnership. We'll connect you to millions of hungry customers. And at first, that was true. A cafe that once relied on walk-ins could suddenly reach new neighborhoods. The first months on an app often feel like success. Sales up 40%, seats full again, staff working extra hours to package takeout. But when the honeymoon fades, the math turns cruel. That 42% jump in revenue hides a margin collapse once the 30% commission, packaging costs, and ad placements get deducted. The restaurant starts working harder to earn less, and the only constant winner is the platform extracting a toll for visibility. Small businesses don't have much choice. If they leave, their digital footprint vanishes. Customers searching best sandwiches near me find the chain that pays for top placement, not the independent deli trying to survive. Even loyal fans, clicking the familiar logo, might not realize they're routed through a third-party markup. The algorithm has effectively nationalized their customer relationships. It decides who's seen, who's promoted, who disappears. Chef owners describe the experience like yelling into a storm. They adjust pricing, tweak menu photos, respond to reviews, all just to stay visible in a constantly reshuffling feed. Every week brings another platform email suggesting boosted visibility packages, advertising that pushes them higher for a fee, essentially pay to stay relevant. Those boosts often consume what's left of their profit. Refuse to pay, and orders drop overnight. Coincidence, the companies say. Algorithmic coincidence. Some have tried to outsmart the system. A few run multiple ghost kitchens under different names from one address. Digital clones targeting separate search categories. It's a survival hack. Make the algorithm believe you're several restaurants, not one. A taco place rebrands as a burrito shack, a healthy bowl joint, and a wings outlet, all run by the same exhausted staff. It works until customers notice the same napkins in every order. Even the tricks require creativity few small operators can sustain. Others experiment with direct ordering. They build websites, launch loyalty programs, print QR codes that lead to commission-free menus. It's a bold move that yields mixed results. Some succeed by turning regulars into online supporters who pick up orders instead of paying delivery fees. Others invest thousands building digital systems only to realize customers still default to the apps out of habit. Having convenience at your fingertips beats remembering 20 different URLs. The algorithm's grip extends beyond visibility. It dictates menu design itself. Platforms reward higher average order values, so restaurants learn to bundle items strategically, add-ons, combos, exclusive delivery meals. AI systems encourage this, whispering real-time tips. Customers who order burgers also add loaded fries. The owner adds them. Sales rise slightly, profit margins fall further, because the app favors items that increase transaction totals, not sustainability. Every helpful suggestion pulls operators deeper into dependency. Some owners laugh about it now. One describes their restaurant as a content provider for a logistics company. Another calls delivery tablets reverse slot machines. You keep paying until you lose. Beneath the jokes sits fatigue. They entered food service to cook, not to manage data dashboards. But the modern restaurant can't escape analytics. Drop below certain acceptance rates or customer ratings, and you're demoted. Exceed them, and the algorithm showers you with more orders you can barely handle. Work hard, get punished with volume. The pandemic normalized these conditions. In 2002, joining delivery felt heroic. By 2025, it's mandatory like paying rent. Some owners call it algorithm rent. the price of existing in the digital marketplace. The larger chains absorb it easily, using marketing teams and national deals. Independents can't. They're pushed toward what consultants politely label hybrid models, selling through apps for reach but steering loyal customers to direct channels for survival. The tactic works only if customers care enough to change habits, and that's never guaranteed. Restaurants that once prided themselves on atmosphere now compete in thumbnail photography. Dine-in experiences can't translate through pixelated menus and discount pop UPS. The smell of spices, the handshake with the server, the neighborhood conversation, all flattened into delivery metrics. Cooking becomes content production. Optimized portion sizes, identical packaging, logo consistency. One chef admits they redesigned their dishes just to photograph better for the app's search pages. The artistry that once defined them is now filtered through machine learning preferences. And yet, the industry keeps chasing technological salvation. AI dashboards promise predictive order management, forecasting surges, mapping driver wait times, calculating earnings by algorithm. In theory, it's efficiency. In practice, it's surveillance. Restaurants surrender operational data that the platforms then use to negotiate harder. Our analytics show your location underperforms at lunch. Lower your delivery price for better rankings. It's a self-feeding loop. Give data, lose leverage. Still, the appeal of convenience for customers remains unbeatable. People crave effortless access. Restaurants crave survival. To bridge that divide, new models sprout weekly: subscription meal packages, local courier collectives, and shared kitchens that cut delivery zones in half to save fuel. Some even try meal prep kits, borrowing from subscription trends to bypass last-mile chaos. Results vary, but one truth stays constant. Everyone wants to claw back control the algorithm took. Success stories are rare but notable. A few small chains built their own apps that mimic platform convenience minus commissions. Loyal neighborhoods embraced them like acts of community pride. Customers understood that bypassing the big platforms wasn't inconvenience, it was solidarity. For a short time, that sentiment caught fire online. Order direct, support local. It helped some, not all. Digital awareness doesn't always translate to changed behavior when the default options glow brightest. Still, there's movement. Trade associations now lobby for fee caps, data transparency, and legal rights to customer information generated by their own sales. Politicians use restaurant struggles as symbols of corporate excess. Whether reform or new regulation emerges, the tension has already reshaped the industry's DNA. The romantic era of hospitality has collided with the cold arithmetic of algorithms. Inside kitchens, conversations sound different now. Cooks talk about keyword relevance and menu conversion rates as often as recipes. Managers check driver efficiency reports before staff schedules. Every decision passes through digital logic, even those made on gut instinct. Technology didn't just infiltrate the dining experience, it rewrote it. And yet amid all this optimization, the human element refuses to disappear. Regulars still stop by to say hi. Birthday dinners still require real tables. Some owners admit delivery exposure helped them survive long enough to rebuild in-person business. Others use it strategically, keeping it small, controlled, on their terms. Balance rather than rebellion might be the only sustainable path left. But the underlying contradiction remains. Apps promise efficiency to customers, yet inject inefficiency into the businesses providing the food. The more sophisticated the recommendation engine becomes, the thinner restaurant margins get. Automation optimizes for volume, never for value. It rewards compliance, not creativity. So restaurants keep walking the tightrope between dependence and defiance, technology and tradition. They'll keep posting breakfast photos optimized for search algorithms while dreaming of customers walking through actual doors. The system that was supposed to connect diners to kitchens now stands squarely between them, invoicing both sides for the privilege. And still people order, food moves, money circulates. The cycle continues because hunger doesn't wait for fairness. But beneath the constant churn, the restaurant world has learned a bitter truth. The fastest way to disappear online is to stop paying the algorithm rent. The only alternative is to find a way around it, and that rebellion, small as it seems, has quietly begun. Technological arms race. In a business that constantly loses money, technology becomes both an excuse and a religion. Delivery apps talk about data like chefs talk about ingredients. Each update a new recipe for efficiency. And by 2025, the competition isn't just about who can get your burger to the door fastest. It's about who can predict what you'll crave before you even open the app. Behind the screens, AI has become the silent chef. Algorithms track every click, scroll, and hesitation, translating indecision into data points. If you linger on a dessert photo for 3 seconds too long, the system knows and serves you 3 more tomorrow. The personalization feels flattering until you realize it's manipulation with calories attached. The app doesn't just show you dinner, it shapes your appetite. Every successful upsell is another win for code over choice. Those recommended sides aren't suggestions, they're behavioral traps. In boardrooms, executives celebrate 28% upsell success rates powered by AI recommendations. Fries, dips, add-ons. They're not accidents, they're line items in algorithms training you to want more. You don't need fries, the system whispers, but our data says you usually cave after 10 seconds. Most of us do. It started harmlessly, with convenience. The system remembered past orders, corrected allergies, saved payment details. But data improved faster than ethics. Soon, algorithms weren't predicting your cravings, they were scheduling them. One study found that users ordered most predictably between 7 p.m. and 7:20 p.m. So push notifications now land right in that window. Not hunger-driven, you are now. The machine only needs to be right slightly more often than wrong to keep you hooked. That's the real arms race, each platform trying to outguess human behavior. DoorDash tests mood-based targeting, Uber Eats experiments with AI meal planning, and smaller services focus on hyper-personal localization. The pitch is personalization, the outcome is homogenization. When algorithms design dinner, everything starts to taste like optimization. And yet, the innovation show doesn't stop. Automation is the next holy grail. Delivery bots roll down sidewalks, drone test flights zip over suburbs. Every company promises cost reduction, but the real goal is labor reduction. The profits humans erode, robots will one day fix. Corporate slides are full of futuristic promises: zero emissions, instant arrival, no driver complaints. It's the dream of convenience stripped of humanity, efficiency chasing itself in circles. In practice, these experiments mostly run on PR fuel. A handful of cities pilot drone deliveries, and autonomous carts trundle down campuses at jogging speed. They draw attention, not revenue. Robots can carry only small orders, struggle with stairs and bad weather, and need expensive human monitoring anyway. For now, they're mascots of progress, props for investor confidence, logistic cosplay for an audience hungry for innovation. Still, the arms race accelerates. Every startup with sensors and wheels gets funding on the promise of ending the last-mile problem. But that problem isn't distance, it's profit. Cutting humans out doesn't fix economics. It just relocates costs to maintenance and software. Yet in an industry where optimism values higher than viability, even partial autonomy sells the illusion of inevitability. There's another frontier: sustainability. Platforms parade green logos and carbon-neutral slogans, pitching themselves as environmental saviors. They promise recyclable packaging, efficient routing, eco-friendly delivery. It plays well online. But in reality, disposable containers mount, fuel still burns, and bikes still share lanes with cars billowing exhaust. Sustainability becomes a story, not a standard, a marketing flavor pumped into branding decks because guilt now sells as well as speed. Subscription models add an extra layer to this controlled ecosystem. DashPass, Uber One, Eats Plus, all offering lower fees for monthly commitments. Sounds like savings until you realize they're engineered to reduce price sensitivity. Subscribers stop noticing cost creep. Loyalty turns automatic. You're not shopping, you're enrolled. It's the same trick streaming giants perfected. Once you've prepaid, quitting feels like loss. Artificial loyalty, wrapped in convenience. Algorithms learn from that too. They track how subscribers behave versus casual users, how far each will tolerate fee spikes before quitting. Artificial intelligence becomes artificial empathy, mimicking care while tightening margins. The corporate objective remains simple: train both consumers and restaurants to respond predictably enough that profit can be automated someday. Meanwhile, in kitchens and cars, that automation brings pressure instead of relief. AI dispatch systems monitor preparation times, assigning drivers like chess pieces. Finish one order 30 seconds late, and your ranking slips. The system's efficiency reads like surveillance. It knows when a chef hesitates, when a driver idles, when a customer opens the door too slowly. Data replaces trust. In theory, it eliminates waste. In practice, it eliminates patience. Despite all this sophistication, the experience for users hasn't improved much. Orders still arrive cold, prices still spike, service still varies wildly. All the machine learning in the world can't fix the basic physics of traffic or the human unpredictability of appetite. But as long as the apps keep promising the next upgrade will solve it, the illusion of progress persists. Every innovation also becomes a justification. We're not increasing prices, we're investing in automation. We're not cutting driver pay, we're reinvesting in AI safety tools. The language turns every exploit into advancement. Engineers chase optimization while customers chase bargains, and both end up exhausted. Technology has become a treadmill that nobody can step off without guilt. Still, these companies stay addicted to technical spectacle because spectacle buys time. Investors see robot prototypes and imagine margins repaired. Users see glossy commercials of drones dropping dinner like miracles, and they forgive another round of fees. Everyone plays along, pretending the future is one more software update away. The platforms excel at this theater. They hire language specialists to rename old concepts: predictive personalization, demand elasticity modeling, microweather route aggregation. Translation: we found new ways to make the same problems sound futuristic. Shareholders cheer the jargon, restaurants roll their eyes, drivers wonder when any of it translates into real pay. If convenience had a Cold War, this is it: AI arms races, drone demonstrations, and digital surveillance vying for supremacy in a sector that still can't keep fries warm. Each company announces breakthroughs measured in decimals. Delivery times down by 3%, satisfaction up by 1.2. Their victories only marketing can taste. And yet, the competition continues, because no one wants to be the first to admit there's nothing left to optimize except the illusion itself. Meanwhile, consumers sense fatigue setting in. The predictive prompts start feeling invasive. Subscription notices read like bills. Personalized experiences start resembling manipulation. Technology promised to make hunger frictionless, but ended up inserting friction everywhere else. Privacy concerns, data fatigue, choice paralysis. We've gamified eating, turned dinner into a behavioral lab experiment running 24/7. By now, the rhetoric of innovation has looped so far it sounds more defensive than visionary. Companies justify rising costs as necessary for progress, forgetting that progress was supposed to make things cheaper, not pricier. The apps push toward a future filled with mechanical couriers and precision AI recommendations, while the people behind them, chefs, drivers, diners, start wondering what all this precision is actually for. And through all the flashing updates and futuristic prototypes, one truth cuts through the noise: no one's really winning. Consumers feel manipulated, workers feel monitored, restaurants feel marginalized, and the platforms themselves edge closer to burnout disguised as innovation. The technological arms race was supposed to deliver efficiency. Instead, it delivered exhaustion, dressed in silicon and code. The corporate endgame. By this point, the picture's clear. Everyone's losing except the companies charging admission. Customers pay inflated prices for soggy fries. Drivers burn gas faster than they earn it back, and restaurants surrender portions of every order just to stay visible online. What started as a miracle of logistics has quietly exposed itself as the least efficient system imaginable. One where scale substitutes for success and desperation powers the engine. The illusion persists because each side tells itself a different story. Diners think they're buying time, restaurants think they're buying exposure, and drivers think they're buying freedom. In reality, they're all funding the same middleman, a corporate toll booth collecting rent on modern appetite. The machine hums along because nobody can afford to step away. For customers, the final tally reads like a punchline. A burger that costs $12 on paper materializes as $24 plus guilt wrapped in cardboard. Inflation provides cover, but the real culprit is deliberate creep. Platforms quietly outpacing rising costs with higher base fees, betting that irritation trails addiction. We groan, but still tap place order. Drivers see the same pattern in reverse. Bonuses vanish, fuel surcharges shrink to coins, and every incentive update translates to less stability. Gig forums fill with screenshots of $5 runs covering 6 miles. Dynamic pay structures sound innovative until you realize they're algorithmic. Budget cuts. What was once flexible side income has become survival math, written in fuel receipts. Restaurants bear the worst contradiction. Costs climb, but commissions stay fixed, or worsen under premium placement, models that charge extra for visibility. Raise prices to survive, and the algorithm punishes you with less exposure. Refuse, and you fade from search results. Either option ends the same way: higher volume, lower profit, an infinite loop disguised as partnership. By 2025, reality forces the platforms to shift tone. Investors no longer reward boundless expansion. They demand profitability. The response: trim incentives, raise fees, and restructure under cheerful press releases about efficiency realignment. Layoffs hit corporate staffs and drivers alike. Loyalty programs quietly change fine print. The free delivery window closes a little tighter each quarter. The economic correction feels like gravity returning after years of zero-G optimism. DoorDash, Uber Eats, and their rivals pivot toward subscription models and grocery delivery, selling stability rather than disruption. It's the Silicon Valley cycle on repeat: dominate, stagnate, consolidate. Right-sizing incentives becomes code for cutting pay, and synergy replaces innovation. Even the language gets leaner. Underneath the corporate spin lies a deeper truth. Third-party delivery was never built to be sustainable, only habitual. It survives on the inertia of users who uninstall the apps by day and reinstall them by dinner. Consumers cling to convenience, restaurants cling to reach, drivers cling to hope. The entire economy functions like muscle memory with a credit card attached. Some resistance bubbles up. Smaller startups offer flat-fee transparency, and local driver co-ops spring up in a few cities. Grubhub regains modest goodwill by leaning on reliability instead of flash. Municipal pilot programs test community couriers paid hourly, treating meals as neighborhood infrastructure rather than corporate logistics. These experiments are tiny victories, but they hint at sanity returning. Still, the mega platforms keep reinventing the optics. If profitability won't sell, morality will. Expect more green logos, carbon-neutral slogans, and ethical delivery branding. Marketing doing the work, reform won't. Each new campaign feels like déjà vu draped in sustainability fonts. The mathematics remain identical, only the promises get recycled. What was hailed as a tech revolution now resembles an industry negotiating its own retreat. Without subsidies or endless venture cash, margins collapse back to physics. Delivery folds quietly into broader service ecosystems: retail, groceries, logistics, losing its shine but not its utility. Once sold as liberation, convenience settles into what it always was: another bill that shows up before dinner. The pattern is familiar now: innovation, dependence, fatigue, correction. Growth slows, sentiment sours, spin intensifies. Everyone has seen this movie before, but this time, dinner's included in the ticket price. What comes after the delivery bubble? Every bubble eventually bursts, though this one might deflate more than explode. After years of relentless growth, billions in venture capital, and promises of endless convenience, the food delivery economy in 2025 sits in a strange purgatory. Everyone uses it, no one loves it, and the companies behind it are racing to convince the world the next version will finally make sense. The irony? The more futuristic the sales pitch becomes: drones, AI, robot kitchens, the more people start asking if maybe the old ways weren't so bad. The future, it turns out, isn't some automated paradise. It's a tangle of compromises between what's profitable, what's ethical, and what still feels human. The next phase of this industry isn't about faster delivery, it's about survival. After the delivery bubble, the race isn't to move food, it's to regain trust. Already, small cracks of transformation are showing. Some restaurants are quietly walking away from the big apps, opting for collective delivery networks or local cooperatives that share drivers and costs. There's a growing movement toward direct ordering systems, simple websites and QR codes that let you order without the platform middleman. For customers, it feels nostalgic: the thrill of calling a real restaurant, seeing the chef's name on the bag, picking up food that's still hot. Direct order traffic is rising again, powered by nothing fancier than goodwill and cost awareness. The new era might see delivery rebranded as luxury instead of default. Inflation and fatigue have already nudged it there. What was once casual Friday night takeout is edging toward occasional indulgence. Gen Z, supposedly addicted to convenience, are leading that correction. They want transparency, fair pricing, sustainability. They haven't sworn off delivery altogether, but they're deliberate about it. They see through the surge pricing and loyalty schemes, picking restaurants that offer direct links and fair wages to drivers. The rebellion looks subtle, but it's powerful, informed choice. When looked at historically, this feels less like collapse and more like normalization. Every transformative tech brand eventually shrinks into utility. What used to be revolutionary becomes background. Food delivery won't vanish. It'll just stop pretending to be destiny. Drones and autonomous carts will handle hyperdense city routes or corporate campuses. Subscription tiers will turn delivery into a curated membership service for people willing to pay extra for speed. And for most others, cooking, walking, or picking up food themselves will quietly reclaim its place as standard behavior. Automation will still arrive, but piecemeal. Expect robotic runners inside malls or apartment complexes long before skies fill with buzzing drones. The future won't look cinematic. It'll look efficient and slightly dull, an infrastructure stitched into daily life instead of headlines. The goal won't be to wow consumers anymore. It'll be to operate profitably, finally. In that sense, the post-bubble industry trades hype for realism. One promising shift is community-based logistics. Cities experimenting with municipal delivery networks treat drivers like essential service workers rather than freelancers. Restaurants join co-ops that share local couriers with hourly pay and predictable schedules. These small experiments can't compete with Uber's scale yet, but they offer something Silicon Valley can't: algorithm, trust. Customers know their fees stay nearby. For restaurants, it's local control disguised as revolution. Transparency is another frontier. Future regulations may require platforms to disclose how much of each fee goes to workers and restaurants. It sounds bureaucratic, but sunlight changes behavior faster than slogans. Once users see 5 different surcharges feeding corporate operations, loyalty wanes. Companies know this and are preparing branding pivots emphasizing fairness and community impact. Expect the same behavior wrapped in new ethics. Marketing always adjusts before morals do. Technology won't abandon the game either. Artificial intelligence will keep optimizing routes, pricing, and recommendations, but the focus may finally shift toward reducing waste instead of manipulating desire. Systems could predict shared batching between restaurants to minimize emissions or dynamically route drivers for multiple local drops rather than endless cross-city trips. It's still surveillance capitalism, but at least pointed in a greener direction. Behind these technical evolutions lies a cultural reckoning. People are remembering that convenience isn't free and might not even be satisfying. Cooking, once portrayed as inefficient, is re-emerging as self-care. Walking to pick up a meal speaks of connection, not inconvenience. Supporting local restaurants directly is suddenly considered a small act of rebellion against faceless efficiency. The counterculture of dining is surprisingly domestic. In many ways, this is the natural correction to decades of digital excess. Societies overcorrect before finding equilibrium. After years obsessed with frictionless living, the return of small effort feels refreshing. Paying directly, waiting a bit longer, talking to real people. All of it feels new by being old. The post-bubble generation will likely measure convenience differently, not by speed but by satisfaction. Still, corporations won't concede the market easily. Expect rebranding waves. Ethical delivery, carbon-neutral dining, community fulfillment platforms. The terminology will evolve faster than practices. Some companies will lean into automation heavily, turning ghost kitchens into AI logistics hubs with near-zero staff. Others will pivot to hybrid grocery meal kits designed to give you back the illusion of cooking. Every path points to one goal: find the profit margin that scale never delivered. Even if the mega platforms shrink, the idea of instant food isn't going away. It'll exist alongside a new hierarchy of choice: dine in for connection, pick up for practicality, delivery for indulgence. Consumers will adapt emotionally the way they did financially, by budgeting convenience. And for restaurants, autonomy will become strategy, not nostalgia. The winners will be those who learn to use delivery selectively instead of dependently. Governments will also intervene more. Urban planners already talk about regulating delivery traffic and emissions. Labor advocates push for guaranteed minimum earnings per hour, recognizing gig work as genuine labor rather than hobbyist hustle. These changes won't happen overnight, but they'll reshape the narrative from disruption to responsibility. The next decade might finally treat logistical work as infrastructure, not infinite supply. So, what really comes after the delivery bubble? Maybe not collapse, but contraction and clarity. Delivery returns to its rightful scale, useful, not sacred. Restaurants rebuild relationships on their own terms. Drivers gain stability through organization or policy. Customers rediscover the joy of effort. Technology serves the system instead of steering it. In other words, balance, something the convenience era almost erased. And perhaps that's the lasting irony. The apps that made life easier ultimately reminded everyone that ease means nothing without meaning. They traded connection for automation, value for velocity, humanity for data. And now the pendulum swings back. In the world after the delivery bubble, the boldest act isn't ordering faster. It's caring where your meal actually comes from. Supporting restaurants directly, tipping real workers, closing the app, and walking 10 minutes. It feels radical precisely because it shouldn't be. Delivery won't disappear. It'll mature, settle, maybe even humble itself. But the myth of free convenience has officially expired. What remains is a quieter, saner industry and a public just tired enough to choose differently. The future of food isn't about faster service. It's about finally digesting what this experiment taught us. Progress only works when everyone at the table gets fed. That $37 burger wasn't inflation. It was a receipt for an entire system breaking in plain sight. Every surcharge, shrinking tip, and tired driver orbiting your block folds into that number. What looks like convenience on your screen is really the cost of running an empire built on borrowed labor and hidden gas tanks. Instant gratification only stays invisible until the bill arrives. The short version? Consumers overpay, workers under-earn, and restaurants survive out of habit. Delivery apps turn daily meals into data streams, then optimize the humanity out of them. The product was never food, it was the illusion of erased effort. Once that illusion fades, the truth remains. The system feeds itself first. Scroll through the past few years, and the pattern is unmistakable. Wonder becomes dependence, then frustration, then fatigue. Everyone keeps hoping the next update or subscription tier will fix it. It never does, because none of it's broken by accident. When each player pays just to participate, the network's design ensures extraction, not balance. But fatigue has an upside. It taught us how fragile convenience really is. A gas spike, a glitch, one changed menu placement, and livelihoods collapse. That's not innovation. That's fragility disguised as progress. The pandemic taught us the system runs fast only because people inside it don't stop moving, even when they should. Between the memes about cold fries and screenshots of absurd totals, awareness started spreading. People began seeing delivery for what it always was, a service, not salvation. Restaurants clawed back regulars, drivers recalibrated routes, and diners rediscovered that walking a few blocks might feel better than waiting. Progress didn't die. It slowed down to something human again. The legacy of this era won't be the technology. It'll be the perspective it forced. Convenience without fairness burns out. Every algorithm hits a wall, every margin snaps, every user eventually wants meaning again. Maybe the great burnout was worth it if it gave us that clarity. Speed without connection isn't progress, it's noise. So maybe the solution isn't deleting every app, it's remembering you have a choice. Support the spots that still know your name. Pick up dinner, sometimes just to feel it still warm in your hands. Use convenience occasionally, consciously, like seasoning instead of the main course. It tastes better that way. The so-called food revolution turned out to be a warning label. It didn't collapse. It exposed how thin our version of easy really was. Whatever comes next, automation, regulation, or rebellion, will only work if it serves reality, not fantasy. That $37 burger will keep haunting the feed, a price tag on collective denial. But denial doesn't last forever. Habits change, industries follow. Maybe tomorrow you'll still order. Maybe you'll walk instead. Either way, you'll know exactly what that total means. If you want to see how this obsession with frictionless living rewired everything from work to shopping, the next episode dives into late-stage convenience culture. Subscribe, watch, and then, for once, set the phone down.